Well, hello everybody. Welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I'm back and I've got an interesting video for you today. I want to talk about Alone Redemption, Season 5, Episode number 8. This is episode called Slayer 2. So if you haven't seen Alone Season 5 Redemption, I highly recommend that you turn this video off. It will contain spoilers, and I don't want to ruin your Alone experience. So let's go ahead and get started. The quote on the screen says, "Solitude and isolation are painful things and beyond human endurance." This is by Jules Verne. Let's start. We are on day 32. There are 5 people left. It's 8:47 in the morning, and we are starting off with Britt. So he's in his shelter, and he's kind of looking around, you know, he's kind of looking down, and he's got this stick in his hand, right? And he's looking down, he's very still, and then all of a sudden he moves the stick down. Well, he kills a mouse. So, and then he says something to the effect that, you know, patience goes a long way. That's true. So he was literally watching a mouse. The mouse was walking around in his shelter underneath him, and bam, he nails this mouse. So he says he's going to have a mouse snack. Really cool, you know. And there was an annotation that came on the screen that said that there's approximately 30 calories in a mouse and that they're around 19% protein. And so he guts the mouse, he cooks it up. Looked like he put it on a piece of wire or something, held it over the fire. And as he's eating this mouse, he says that the meat tastes good. Let's move forward, 9:56 in the morning, talking about Sam. He also has a mouse in his shelter as well. So he decides to set a deadfall trap in his shelter. Trap goes off, and he got the mouse. But the mouse wasn't dead. The rock fell, and it barely clipped the mouse, and the mouse was alive, just kind of looking around, but he was stuck. The mouse couldn't move. So what does Sam do? Something similar to Britt. I mean, he clubs the mouse with a piece of wood. Very effective means of killing a mouse. And Sam decides that he's going to eat the majority of the mouse and use what's left for bait, which is very smart, very thoughtful of Sam to do that. And he also makes a comment where he says, "I wonder how many mice Larry has caught." So for those of you who haven't seen Larry on previous seasons of Alone, season 2 to be exact, Larry does not like mice. So Sam's kind of poking at him a little bit. Pretty good. Very good. I liked it, actually. So let's move forward. Day 33. 8:46 in the morning. This is the following day. We're talking about Larry. And the opening shot shows the tarp of the shelter, and there's like frost on it. Very cold outside, and Larry says it's getting colder. It's going to be very cold winter. And so he had some Paiute deadfall traps. He decides that he's going to go check them. And guess what? He's got a mouse. And the mouse is not thawed out. It's frozen solid. So he goes and checks another Paiute deadfall. You know, he had a whole string of traps, which is smart. That's the way to set deadfalls. You can't just go set one and then expect it to hit. You got to set a multitude of traps, and that's what Larry did. So he goes and checks another Paiute. Guess what? He had a second mouse. It's pretty cool. And I noticed in the background of the scene, you know, that he was shooting, that it looks very cold out there. And of course, he already talked about it. So he decides that he's going to name his Paiute deadfalls Slayer number 1, Slayer number 2, and Death Dealer. I guess he had 3 of them. And there's an annotation that comes on the screen. I didn't quite catch it all, but it said something to the effect that isolation causes a loss of some chemical in your body, which ends up being mood swings. And so coming back to Larry, he's demonstrating that. He's getting mad and he's pissed off at these mice, and you know, so he's having mood swings. So let's move forward. 1:12 in the afternoon, we're talking about Randy, and it's raining outside. He's in his shelter working on some carving projects, which is very smart. When you got some kind of project that you're doing, I think that helps you. You know, it keeps your mental sharp. You know, if we look at season 2 and we look at Mike Lowe, a good friend of mine, he did that. He had a lot of little projects and stuff. He made a little football set where he was playing football. So, in fact, he commented today on my Facebook. I had put a post about a picture of like a cabin in the woods, and it said, if you could live in this cabin but you'd have to give up football for the rest of your life, would you take the cabin? And so I posted that picture, and I said yes. Well, Mike commented on there, and we kind of went back and forth about that football set. It was pretty interesting. So anyway, let me get back to the commentary here. So Randy's doing a good thing. He's making some little projects and things like that. And he said that the rain, you know, this dark gloom kind of effect is making him depressed. And he decides that he's going to make a camp chair. Very smart. And so far, you know, it shows a little footage of his chair, and it looks nice. Looks like he's got a good idea here, and it's working out pretty good. So let's move forward. 3:57, we're talking about Dave, and he mentions that the weather's getting colder, and he decides that he's going to go on a hunt, and it's going to be an overnighter. He's going to go do an overnighter type hunt. He's looking for larger game. He wants to try to get a deer, and he makes a note of, and I can't remember if it was an annotation on the screen or if it was something that he was talking about or a mix of both. But it's something to the effect that because he's been more active this season, in season 5, than he was when he was on season 3, he has lost more weight this time around at the same day as he lost in Patagonia. This time he's already lost 27 pounds. And on the same day in Patagonia, he only lost 13 pounds by this day. So he's using more weight. He's losing more weight, excuse me, because he's a lot more active during his hunting. So he decides to go climb kind of like this mountain in his quest of a hunt. And there's a beautiful view from up the top, you know, of all the trees and the fall colors and the snow and everything. He saw 3 deer, and so he decides that he's going to try to get one, but he lost them. They got away from him. He tried to come around and flank them, but they got away. They were gone. And he makes mention of, I just don't have the energy to hunt this hard. Yeah, he's missing these deer, and he's a little frustrated. Let's move forward. Day 34, 8 o'clock in the morning, we're talking about Randy, and he's wondering if I think his brother and his dad had a deer or elk tag. They were hunting at home, and this is the last day of the hunt, and that comes to his mind, and he's wondering if they got a kill. So his morale's starting to break down. He's starting to get on a low. You know, he's missing companionship, and so he decides that he's going to take a small hike, and it's up to the peak of a mountain, you know, a little mountain. And he thinks that this is going to make him feel better. And, you know, he gets to the top of the mountain. It was a calorie expenditure. He knew that this was going to cost calories. But, it's to boost his morale, to make him feel better. So he gets to the summit of this little mountain, and he feels much happier. He's in a good place mentally. And he, just as well as Dave, have both climbed pretty high. And they got some beautiful footage kind of showing down on the river in the area that they're at. And it was the first time, I think, that we've seen that kind of a view from their standpoint. And both shots that Dave and Randy had were beautiful. Beautiful shots. Let's move forward. We're talking about Sam. And he's talking about, you know, winter's coming. Temperatures are dropping. He decides that he's going to fix up his shelter, shore it up a little bit more, and more to get a wind block to break convection. So he decides to make like a wall, and he's also using birch bark to make a door, you know, kind of like shingles on a square frame to make a door. I thought that was very smart, and it looked real nice. and the bad weather is starting to come in, and we get the glimpse of the first snow in Mongolia. And the snow is coming down. It's coming down fairly rapidly. Let's move forward. 5:06 in the afternoon. We're talking about Dave. We're still on day 34. He decides to build a hunting wickiup. For those of you who aren't familiar with a wickiup, it's basically a permanent teepee. It's made out of a bunch of sticks in a triangular fashion, and you put debris around it, and it's a very nice little shelter. So he decides to make one of these. The weather's turning quickly. It's snowing, obviously, and he's on this little hunting journey, and he's laying in the wickiup. It's not complete yet. He's still working on it. Got a lot of work to finish, but he's laying in there looking out, and he's got some beautiful footage of the snow falling, and he's just relaxing and enjoying the moment. He decides to take a nap. Okay, so let's move forward. We're on day 35 now. We're talking about Britt. It's a little after 8 something in the morning, and he's looking at the snow, and he likes it. He says, you know, it feels like alone that like the season is starting now, meaning this is the beginning of the hard part. You know, the snow's hitting the ground. Now we're starting, which I can relate to Britt on that. That makes sense, thinking of it like that. So he decides that he's going to go fishing. And I was a little concerned about fishing, you know, with the snow hitting the ground and the temperatures being cold, because the fish always tend to go to the deeper water during the colder times. And so I was wondering, is Britt going to have any luck catching fish? He's really got to get his line out there. And what do you know? He catches a fish, and it's a grayling. Big milestone for him, because on season 3, he tapped on day 35, and now it's day 35 on season 5, and he feels much better about his performance. He feels like he's doing better now than he did on the last when he was on the last season 3 in Patagonia. He feels much better. He feels successful about what he's doing. And, you know, all the people that are out there are starting to break down a little bit. And, you know, he's in a good place. So I'm really happy for Britt. He's doing really good. Let's move forward. We're about 10 o'clock in the morning talking about Randy. And he's got a plastic water bottle full of water. And it's frozen solid. And he says, this is how cold it got last night. He woke up in a poor me, kind of a piss poor mood. He was a pity party kind of mood. That happens, you know, when you've got extreme isolation, you're low on calories, you're not bringing in, you know, nutrients into your body, it will affect your morale. And that's what's going on with Randy. So he decides that he's going to go do some fishing, and it's snowing. There's ice on the water, you know, like you can see the banks of the water are starting to freeze over. If you haven't seen my January overnighter, you can see that kind of when I cross the water. You can see the water is freezing. Anyway, he hasn't caught a fish in a week, and his lack of food, lack of companionship, it's got him stressed out. And he does this thing where there's a shot of him getting in the cold water. All he's wearing is like his underwear. He doesn't have a shirt or anything on, and he gets in the water. Okay? And the water looks cold, and then next thing you know, he's sitting on his camp chair and he taps out, kind of out of nowhere, and which rings a bell for me, because last time before he tapped out in Patagonia, he did that exact same thing. He built a sweat lodge. He went in there and got a good sweat. Then he came out, that cleared his mind, and then he got in the water in Patagonia. And now he's doing the same thing in Mongolia. So it was very reminiscent of his last tap, because he did the same exact thing. Kind of neat. I didn't expect him to tap, because he had an amazing shelter. You know, it was just, you know, he was definitely one of my favorites on this season that I was watching. And, you know, he feels good about his performance, because it's day 35. You know, he lasted longer this time than he did on Vancouver Island. You know, he only made it 21 days on Vancouver Island, season 2. So he is very happy with his performance here. And one more thing about Randy, you know, Sam Larson, he makes a post this morning and he's saying something to the effect that Randy's renting out his shelter on Airbnb. Oh, Sam, you're a riot, man. So let's move forward. We're on day 35. We have 4 people left. We're starting to get down to the nitty-gritty. There's only going to be 2 more episodes. Talking about Larry, it's 2 o'clock, very cold night, it was snowing outside. He said he's going to go out and poop in the snow. Not sure what to do today. And he said the dog days are starting. And that kind of reminds me of what Britt said about, you know, we're starting now. You know, the weather has changed, it's cold, stuff like that. So Larry yells, "I'm alive!" And he hears this echo, "I'm alive. I'm alive, Mongolia!" And he hears it, "I'm alive, Mongolia." So this echo makes him happy. So that just kind of re-energized Larry's morale a little bit. And that's the end of this episode. You know, one thing, folks, we got a couple more episodes left and the show's going to be over. So we're down to 4 people. We're down to Larry, Sam, Dave, and Britt. Let me know in the comment section down below who's your pick out of those 4. Who are we looking at? Man, I don't know. It could go any way. It's going to get exciting. Thanks for watching. I hope you guys got a good take on this video today. Please feel free again to leave your comments down below, and we'll see you next week. Love y'all. Bye-bye.